Yo, what's up, guys? Figured might as well do a brief little live stream. MLB is back. Try to find some good bets. Another thing that's nice about today is you're going to see there's some pretty good promos going on. So, Underdog Fantasy, I just locked in this. Hopefully, you guys are able, we'll find something similar, worst case, in this video. But you can see here, they're bringing his passing yards line down to over under half of a passing yard. So obviously this is, basically a free win, free money, right? Like I've said it in other videos, but these promos, these no-brainer promos, even if you don't have a big bankroll, right? Like $20 max bet size. This is the easiest money you're going to make sports betting is getting plays like Mahomes over under half of a passing yard. And then you can see it's similar on Sleeper. They're reducing Glasnow's line from 7.5 to 3.5. So another play you want to roll with, and what I ended up pairing it with, is JP France under 5.5 strikeouts. So I took Glasnow over, and it's, again, only $20 max bet size, and then I took France under. So we'll find some more plays if you missed these or if the lines moved. But regardless, two things, two promos you definitely want to take advantage of today. I included, my refer a friend codes below if you don't have any of these sports books. Like the more sports books you have, the more promos there are going to be. And again, like I've said this in other videos, but you really never know which book is going to slip up on a given day and have, profitable bets. Sometimes there's more plays on ParlayPlay. Sometimes it's Underdog Fantasy. Sometimes it's Prize Pick. Sometimes it's Hot Streak. So let me actually log into Hot Streak as well. What's up, guys? Yeah, we'll find another pick for the Mahomes one, but I haven't used Vivid Picks. I'm sure. Let me log into Hot Streak as well. So all these books, I haven't used Vivid Picks, but I've heard some people use it and I've had some success. So I'll end up signing up here in a bit. So another cool sports book or another one to add to your arsenal, it's legal in a lot of states, is called Hot Streak. And what's nice about this platform, so typically what I do is just set my max odds to plus 190. What's nice about this platform is, again, all these books run promos because at the end of the day, Prize Picks, Underdog, Hot Streak, they're all kind of doing the same thing. They're just accepting, bets. So what they'll do is they try to run promos to incentivize, recreational sports bettors to pick their platform. So what you're going to notice is on this Hot Streak sportsbook, every single hour, every single hour, they run a new odds boost. So you can see right now it's Jared Triolo. It's always a random player. It's not like they pick popular players, but you can see they're literally telling you, hey, we're improving the odds by, it's 4.7% positive EV. Whatever. So the fantasy optimizer says it's 4.58% positive EV. But regardless, you're getting this play at minus 184 odds on Hot Streak. You can see FanDuel has this minus 240, minus 270, minus 278, minus 275. So this is just a really good play to go with. And again, every hour, they're trying to keep people, coming back to their platform. Every hour, they're running a new odds boost. So, this is something, if you just remember to log in, you can only bet $10 every hour, but might as well take advantage. So then what we need to do is we need to pair it with something. So I'll just pick something. Hot Streak is one of those platforms, kind of like Prize Picks, where you need at least two players from two different teams to place your bet. You can't just, bet on the odds boost. So typically what I do is usually the best play on the board is going to be the promo. In this case, Jared Triolo over half of a hit. So typically what I do is I just try to find something to pair it with. And in this case, it looks like Ronald Acuna Jr. under 1.5 bases has some value, 0.51% EV. So whatever, we'll just take that, right? Plus 125 odds. Perfect. We're getting plus 125 on Hot Streak. And then I have my 2-pick entry, and I just let the numbers work itself out. So another platform with good promos, and they have promos every single hour. They have a $200 deposit match. My refer a friend code is just my name, Alex. If you don't already use Hot Streak, again, put in 200. There will be $400 in your account. And what you can do is just every single hour, place these odds boosts if you remember to log in, because there's usually, at least a few different odds boosts going on that are really, really good. Sometimes it's like 10% EV. But again, the strategy is pretty simple. Like, you're getting this play at minus 184 on Hot Streak. You may not know anything about baseball. You may not know anything about this player. But again, like, all these books, right, are really smart. They're billion-dollar companies. The 4 books listed here, they've invested millions of dollars in their ability to set lines. And they're all telling you this should be priced around, like, minus 260, minus 270. So you're kind of, because all these sports books set lines independently, you're kind of using them against each other, right? Every book is a data point on, FanDuel is saying, hey, we think this should be priced at minus 240. Caesars is even more aggressive. They're like, no. We think this guy's more likely to get a hit than minus 240. We're pricing this at minus 278, right? So all these sports books with really good models, data feeds, they have dozens of full-time employees, hundreds watching their lines, right? So you're essentially just like finding inefficiencies in the market. So we can hit that on Hot Streak, and then we can go over to Underdog Fantasy, look for some plays. So one thing we recently did on OddsJam is we added in esports, and obviously it's maybe a sport you haven't bet on a lot before, but what's nice about esports is there's always so many different games going on. Like you can see here, Underdog Fantasy, Prize Picks, there's typically like thousands of esports lines. So all, OddsJam is doing is pretty simple. It's just reading in all the lines and showing you line discrepancies. So we can go through, some different examples on Underdog Fantasy, on ParlayPlay, on these different platforms. So for example, you can see this Bankroll player, and not a lot of sports books post, player prop lines for League of Legends, but there are a few. So you can see right here, OddsJam is recommending Bankroll over 3.5, map 1, map 2 kills. So if you just select this guy, if you want a pair for this Patrick Mahomes promo, you put that in here. You can see Underdog has his line at 3.5. And it's, pretty simple concept. It's just like, okay, we have 3 sports books that post player prop lines for basically every League of Legends player. It's Underdog Fantasy, it's Prize Picks, and it's ParlayPlay. So you basically have 3 data points, right? Underdog Fantasy, their model is spitting out 3.5. Prize Picks, their model has him higher, right? They're projecting he gets more kills, right? So they're setting his line at 4. And a lot of people will be like, oh, I think I can outsmart and outmodel Prize Picks. It's like, you got to remember how much money these books have poured into their models, how good their data feeds, their resources are. And also, really important, they have access to betting volume. So what I mean by that is if a bunch of people come on to Prize Picks, a bunch of sharp bettors, and they start taking this guy's over, Prize Picks is going to move his line higher, right? They're going to move his line to 4.5, 5, 5.5. So sports books have access to betting volume, which essentially means they have access to the opinions of a ton of different people. Like if there's a bunch of sharp bettors in esports and they all come in hammering this guy's over, Prize Picks is going to be like, whoa, our line's actually a little too low at 4, and they'll bump it up to 4.5. That's what sports books do, right? Just like the price of a stock. If every hedge fund decides to buy Facebook stock today, the price of Facebook stock will go up, right? There's more demand for buying it as opposed to selling it. And it's the same thing here, right? Like if everyone comes in, slamming is over, Prize Picks is going to move the line until they get to that point of equilibrium where there's equal money coming in on both sides. So long story short, like it's a pretty simple concept. ParlayPlay, Prize Picks have his line at 4, Underdog at 3.5. So if you want a pair for this Underdog Fantasy promo, here's something good, you may want to go with. And then what we can do is we can just kind of reload this, and we can take a look at what else is out there. So you can see there's some other plays here like contracts, right? But, one thing you can do in esports betting, so you can see this player, for example, his line is 2. On Underdog Fantasy, does ParlayPlay have his line? It doesn't look like they're not even posting a line on him. So you just have 2 sports books. So Prize Picks has his line lower at 1.5. So we have a discrepancy in the market. And again, like you don't have to use OddsJam or anything like that. If you have a lot of time, you can essentially just like scan through these markets by yourself, pull up esports, and just look for discrepancies because that's all OddsJam is doing, right? It's just pointing out discrepancies, value, however you want to think about it in the market. So what you could do in this case is if you were creating a Prize Picks entry, one strategy that's pretty effective is called a middle bet, right? So OddsJam actually has a tool for middle betting. And essentially what you do is the sportsbook with a higher line, you take the under. The sportsbook with a lower line, you take the over, right? So, and again, like 1.5 versus 2 may not seem like a big difference, but that's a 33% increase, right? Like imagine an NBA player's points line was 15 on Prize Picks, 20 on Underdog. Like you'd be like, wow, that's a big difference, 15 versus 20. So it's the same thing here, right? In percentage form. So half of a point middle, like this guy has a pretty high probability of ending up on exactly 2 kills in map 1. And if he has exactly 2 kills on map 1, you're going to push on Underdog, and on Prize Picks, you're going to win. So that's your preferred outcome, right? The sports books make a little bit of money. They charge the juice, they charge the VIG. But essentially, like this guy has a pretty high probability of ending up on exactly 2 kills. So you take his over, you take his under, right? And that's a middle bet, right? And sometimes these middle bets are a lot bigger, a lot better. But I've explained this before, but like sometimes as you get closer to game time, the markets get efficient. So I've given some examples before, but like this, well, I'll try to find some. But typically what you'll notice is when Prize Picks and Underdog first release League of Legends, CSGO, whatever lines, there's huge discrepancies. 2 kills, 2 to 4, 1.5 to 3.5. And you can get some crazy good middles. But typically, as you get closer to game time, like the market adjusts. Sharp bettors hammer things into place because sports books ultimately want to be at a point of equilibrium. But again, like all these sports books set lines independently. If Prize Picks had the exact same odds and lines as Underdog Fantasy, we wouldn't need 2 platforms, right? So they all have their own models, set lines independently. So essentially, we're just looking for discrepancies between them. So what we can do is we can go over to Prize Picks. Prize Picks has a promo too. They have their Flex Friday. So your first bet, I think, is risk-free up to $20. So here we can see we can try to find some plays. So what we can do is we can also go over here, and then we can go to player out. So the first play it's recommending, it looks like right here is Graham Ashcraft under 16.5 outs. So if we go here and then we pull him up, just to kind of, take a look at why is Prize Picks recommending that. Well, what you're going to see, so let me just move things over a bit. Prize Picks, Underdog, I care about most. So what you're going to notice is like Prize Picks has this guy's line at 16.5. Underdog is a little lower at 16. And then all the sports books are at 15.5. And there's some discrepancies, right? Like DraftKings has the under a little favored, right? So DraftKings model, the under is juiced. So according to DraftKings, the under is more likely, like Graham Ashcraft going under 15.5 outs is a little more likely. There's not a ton of juice, but a little more likely than him going over. Whereas on Hot Streak, the over is a little favored. So Hot Streak's model, all these book set lines independently, they're saying we think he's a little more likely to go over 15.5 outs as opposed to under. But long story short, like it's clear, nothing complicated here. If I told you there were, what's a good example? All these different stock exchanges, and they're all telling you the stock should be worth $15.50. Some have the, a little juice towards, I guess, $16. Some have it a little juice towards the under. And then there's this one random one that has the line at 16.5. You'd be like, oh, this one's too high. I'd want to sell, right? Because all the other stock markets are telling me the stock's worth $15.50. And Prize Picks has it at 16.5. So this is a good play to go with for Flex Friday that we can kind of start with. So we can go to MLB, and then we can go to pitching outs, and we can go to Graham Ashcraft. And some of these really good lines are going to move quickly, so I'll try to move quickly and just kind of get a play together. We can also see if there's anything on Fliff, stuff like that. So Fliff is a more traditional sports book. So I'm currently, depending on where you're located, you have different sports books available to you. So, for example, I'm from Virginia, so I spend a lot of time in Virginia. FanDuel's a big sports book, obviously, in Virginia, but it's not legal in California. So there are a lot of good bets, on FanDuel, on these more traditional sports books like Prize Picks and stuff like that are kind of different, right? Because the way they work is like there's no odds. There's just like these fixed payouts. But more traditional sports books, there's a lot of plays. But again, obviously, I'm not going to spend a lot of time looking at them because I'm not betting on FanDuel today. So what is available in nearly every state is a sports book called Fliff. So you can see it right here. And it's basically exactly like a regular sports book. It works in a little bit different of a way. But regardless, we can see on this White Sox play, OddsJam is recommending we take Morton over 6.5 Ks at plus 105. So what you'll notice is like most sports books, nearly every sports book has his over favored, right? They have him more likely to go over 6.5 strikeouts as opposed to under. So, what is plus 105 odds? If you think about what is plus 105 odds, it's like you're flipping a coin with a friend, right? And you pick heads, and if it shows up heads, you get $105, and if it shows up tails, you owe your friend $100, right? But sports books also have the over favored, so the coin is weighted towards heads, and you're getting $105 if it shows up on heads, right? So that seems like a pretty good deal, right? That seems like a pretty good trade, and it's kind of the same thing here, right? Like according to other sports books, other data points in the market, and a lot of people would be like, "Oh, he had only 2 strikeouts the past 2 games." And all that's great and all, and like you can look at it, but you have to remember like that's already baked into the market, right? Like that's already reflected in the market. It's like if a company has fraud, and then you look at the stock the next day and you're like, I should sell it because that company had fraud, but the stock's already going to be down 20%, right? It's already going to be reflected in the market. That's the way markets work, right? Like, so long story short, everything's baked in to the current market odds. If his under should actually be favored, it already would be favored because everyone would have gone in and that is under. So long story short, like looking at historical data isn't something I do because it's baked into the market, right? It's baked into the odds. It's like looking and being like, oh, Mark Zuckerberg said this a week ago, so I'm going to sell Facebook. It's like that's already reflected in the market. It's public information. So you can see here, it's like, okay, most books have Morton's over favored. So it's essentially like finding a coin that's weighted to show up on heads, and you're getting a better payout. You're getting $105 if the coin shows up heads, but you only pay your friend $100 if it shows up tails. Sounds like a pretty good trade. That's essentially the same thing here, right? So you can see the average line, the average odds across the entire market. In this average odds column, it includes like, there are I only have 6 sports books selected that I'm betting on right now. But you can see like here, if I select them all, there's 200 sports books on OddsJam. So basically the average throughout the market is, that the over should be favored. So we're looking at all data points, right? And all these sports books, have slightly different models. They're taking bets, moving around lines due to supply and demand. So in general, like the average line, is a pretty good representation of what should be favored. And here the over's favored, right? That's 200 sophisticated sports books, full-time employees watching their lines, taking bets, moving around lines due to supply and demand, really good models, really good data feeds. They're all saying the over should be favored, right? On average. There's a couple sports books that have the under favored like Caesars. But again, as a sports bettor, we're trying to look at all this data in the market. And you can see basically every single sports book has the over favored. Tipico has the over a little favored. So getting plus 105 on Flip is, clearly a play that we want to go with. We want to lock in. But anyways, let's get back to this prize picks entry. So let me pull up ParlayPlay, prize picks, Underdog Fantasy. What else do I want? I think we're good on that for now. So then you can see here's this other play. Might as well lock in another while we're here. So you can see here, JP France, minus 120, right? Every other book has the under heavily favored, right? Every other book has this like minus 143. So that seems pretty good. So we're just going to go here and place the bet on the under. I mean, it's pretty simple. Like people will try to do all sorts of analysis, like looking at, oh, what did he do last game and all that sort of stuff. But it doesn't matter. And you'll see that if you try to do it. It's not going to help you make more money, lose more money. It's not going to do anything because it's all reflected in the market. People will try to create their own models to outsmart FanDuel. Again, like you can try doing that. They have thousands of employees, billion-dollar company. They're always going to have a better model than you. The way you beat books is by finding inefficiencies in the market, at least the easiest way, right? So minus 120. So that seems pretty good. And you can see here, if we pull up a little no vig odds calculator, so Bet Online, pretty sharp, smart sports book, however you want to think about it, right? They have the under priced at minus 152, right? You're getting minus 120 on Flip. So if you remove the vig, which is how books make money, that tells you what the sports book believes the true price is or the fair odds, right? So essentially it's like, okay, it's like if you're a stockbroker and you're like, yo, I'll buy this stock for 10, I'll sell it for 11. If someone tells you that, they probably think the price is worth the midpoint, 10.50, right? They're buying it for 10, they're selling it for 11. And that's how sportsbooks make money, right? They charge a spread. They hope equal money comes in on the over and the under, and then they make their risk-free spread. It's pretty simple. That's how books make money, right? They bake in the VIG. So the way a sportsbook works is it has a model that spits out, hey, we think the true line on the under is minus 130. The true line on the over is plus 130. This is a market with no VIG, right? That's like me being like, hey, I'll buy your stock for 10.50, I'll sell it for 10.50. Or a car dealer saying, hey, I'll buy your car for $10,000, and then you see it listed at $10,000. It's not the way dealers work, right? The way a car dealer works is just like that. You go in, they're like, dang, I think that guy's car is worth $15,000. So I'm going to buy it from him for $10,000, and then I'm going to list it for $20,000, right? That's how car dealers make money. So essentially, you just take the market, you remove the spread, and that shows you what the true line is. So Bet Online, pretty sharp bookmaker, smart bookmaker, their no VIG line, you remove the VIG, they're pricing this at minus 130, and we're getting better odds, right? So they're saying, we think this should be minus 130. That's the true line with no VIG. But we're getting minus 120 on flips. So that seems pretty good, right? And there's like, if you want to read more about no VIG, how sports books work, right? This is the way every single sports book works. You can look it up. You can talk to whoever you want. Sports books have models that spit out what their true odds are, and then they bake in their VIG, and they call it a day. And then they move around lines due to supply and demand. That's coming in, injury news, whatever, stuff like that. So we got 2 plays on Fliff, and then what we can do is we can go back to Prize Picks and hopefully find some good esports plays or something for this, Flex Friday. Maybe some good middles, who knows? So you can see there's some NBA Summer League popping up, whatever. We have this play on Graham Ashcraft. That's great. What else is there? So this seems decent to go with for Flex Friday. So again, like not a ton of books post esports lines. So, but you can see for this Quid guy, where are you, buddy? His line is 3, right? On Underdog Fantasy. His line is 3 on ParlayPlay, right? And Prize Picks has his line at 2.5. So just rational sports betting. Like you're not going to win every bet. You're looking for plays with an edge, right? And then you win long term. If you have an edge, you win long term. You're not going to win every bet. It's kind of the way it goes. But the way, most sports bettors or most people work is, they'll look for the guy on a winning streak. They'll pay him to buy his picks. And then he'll be on a winning streak. He'll go on a losing streak, and people go over to the next guy who's on a winning streak. And he goes on a losing streak. So you just keep bouncing around. But like nobody can win every day. It's all about having an edge and, winning long term. So here we go. So here we have one play that seems decent. Now we can see another one, still none. And you can see you want to take him under 3, right? Underdog Fantasy has his line lower. And again, no offense, you watch esports, you're not going to have a better model. You're not going to have a better sense of how many kills he's going to get unless you think you're smarter than everyone else. Because again, if you think sports books don't know how to set odds, that also means you think everyone else doesn't know what they're doing. Everyone out there, because there are millions of Americans who can bet on Underdog Fantasy. And if his line should actually be at 5, anyone smart with their own model, all these sharp bettors would have hit the over and his line would be at 5, right? Books move around lines due to supply and demand, due to bets that are coming in. So anyways, I've been talking a lot, but hopefully I can get this Prize Picks play done quickly. And it's a risk-free bet up to, I think, $20 you get back, something like that for Flex Friday. I'm not exactly sure, but they run this promo every week. So you can see Wild Turtle. And are any of these players on the same team? No. So this actually we don't want to take. We don't want to take Wild Turtle. Funny name, but they all have interesting names. But the reason is, so on Prize Picks, right, you're going to notice like if you take over versus under, you're always getting the same payout. Like these are fixed payout sports books. You take an over, you take an under, like it doesn't matter. They don't change your payout. But in esports, a little confusing, but important, is if one guy goes over, then the person on the opposing team is more likely to go under, right? So if Quid goes over 2.5 kills, Wild Turtle is more likely to go under. So the under would be positively correlated, but the over would be negatively correlated. Kind of a good way to think about it is like, if you go to the NFL season, right? If you took, let's say, Rodgers passing yards, you took his over, and then you took Garrett Wilson over receiving yards, like Underdog Fantasy is giving you a 3x payout, right? If Rodgers has a great season and throws for 6,000 passing yards, Garrett Wilson, probably going to be his main target, is more likely to go over. So it wouldn't make sense to take the under because you're getting the same payout, right? 3x on Underdog Fantasy for a 2-pick entry. But obviously, if Rodgers goes over, that's correlated, then Wilson's more likely to go over. So when you can bet on players from the same team, or same game, I guess just want to be a little like cognizant of that on Prize Picks. So we can see there's a play on Sengshu. So is this from the same game? So this, on the other hand, has positive correlation, right? And what you're going to notice is if you actually look at Prize Picks, or let's go here. So wait, who did I want? Let's go back here. Let's go to Prize Picks. So I've Stillnum under 3. Wait, so this would be negatively correlated as well. So we don't want to take this, right? You want to take players on the same team to both go over or both go under because that's positively correlated. And what's interesting about Prize Picks is you're going to notice, like on Underdog Fantasy smarter than Prize Picks in this way, is on Underdog Fantasy, they say you can't play players from the same team, right? You can't bet on esports players from the same team. So Underdog Fantasy is like, we know that people make money off correlation, so we're just not even going to let you play players from the same team for esports. But on Prize Picks, you can still do it. So, if I decided to bet this, I could bet this. But obviously I'm not gonna because it's negatively correlated. But that's like an added benefit of Prize Picks versus Underdog Fantasy is you can play correlated outcomes. You can play players from the same team, both to go over. If you can find 2 really good picks, like that's great. So we got to find some stuff. So here we go. Jensen over 4. Underdog ParlayPlay have his line at 4.5. This is just the fantasy optimizer on OddsJam. So what we can do is we can go back here and we can take him over 4. So Dig versus IMT. So now none of these players are from the same game. So we don't have any correlation. So it's like, okay. And then I can refresh this, right? I haven't refreshed it, but sometimes, plays come, plays go. So this line differences tab, all it does is it will show you, where books have different lines from one another, which is useful for esports, obviously. And another reason, if you don't bet on esports right now, maybe you want to, is like, first of all, there's a lot of games, like tons of games, which means there's always going to be line discrepancies, always good stuff to bet on. But the second reason maybe you want to bet on esports is, the markets are more inefficient. So what I mean by that is like you're going to find bigger discrepancies. You're never going to see an NBA player at, 15 points on one book and 18 points on another book, right? But you will see that all the time. Like the sports books watch their lines too closely, and there's too few games, too few players that sports books can keep everything in check. But for esports, where there's hundreds of games a day, right? Hundreds, thousands of players, right? All these random different markets you can bet on, they can't keep everything in check, so you'll find bigger discrepancies, more profitable betting opportunities. And at the end of the day, like, it doesn't really matter. The math holds if you're betting on esports or MLB or basketball, it doesn't matter. So let's go back to this fantasy tool. Let's refresh it. What's up, guys? Anyways, I'm trying to find a bet. So we'll go back to the fantasy optimizer and we'll see if there's anything good. So we have Graham Ashcraft. What else do we want to take? So we are we on Quid? So we're on Quid, we're on Stillnum, and we're on Jensen. But I need one more play. So like this one, I'm going to skip over Unforgiven, because here it kind of seems like, ParlayPlay is the platform you'd want to place the bet on. Prize Picks has his line at 3. So does Underdog Fantasy. Parlay plays at 3.5. So like it seems like ParlayPlay in this case is the side that's off. And again, like esports markets are less efficient. Like you only have 3 books to look at, which is why I try to middle it often. Whereas the MLB, there's literally hundreds of sports books on OddsJam that are posting odds. So you have more confidence in like what the true price should be, right? Like here, there are hundreds of sports books on OddsJam, and the average line for Charlie Morton over 6.5 strikeouts is that the over should be favored, which is why, you should feel pretty good about placing this bet on Morton over 6.5 Ks on Fliff because you have a lot of confidence. Whereas if there were only 2 sports books, then it's like, okay. So that's the thing about esports is it's just, the discrepancies are bigger, but oftentimes I look for the middles. But anyways, let's go back to this fantasy optimizer. So what we can do as well is let me pull up FanDuel. Summer League is, I need to find one more play. Typhoon over is good correlation. Yeah, correlation definitely only matters if the picks are from the same match. So what you can do is I think only in a couple states, I think it may only be New Jersey, but FanDuel has Summer League player prop lines. So what you can do is like, if we look at, for example, who's a good player. So like Charlie Brown on the 76ers. So if we go to this game, let's see if they have player points. So they do have it pulled up, but unfortunately they don't have Brown listed. They just have this guy, Jaden Springer. But anyways, let's try to find one last play and then move on to ParlayPlay or something like that. We can also check, there's different sites that kind of like show you data. I use Daily Grind, pretty similar to OddsJam in many ways, but sometimes they highlight discrepancies differently. So you can see this play, Dolka. It looks like Hot Streak. So again, Hot Streak's a sports book, which isn't loading right now. But if we take a look here, you can see they have his line at 1.5 kills. So they have the over heavily favored, right? They have the over at 1.46. And again, I'm not sure why some sports books do this, but you're going to see they list their odds in decimal format. Whereas, so all you have to do is, if you're used to betting in American odds, you can see this site, just like OddsJam, is listing it at minus 223. It looks like, it's actually 1.46. So it's actually minus 218-ish. And we can see then, so it seems like, long story short, they have the over really heavily favored on this Dolka guy. NRG top versus GG. And then does Underdog, oh, so this play seems pretty good. I'm not sure why it wasn't picked up on OddsJam. Or maybe it was, and I just didn't look at it. Oh, it was picked up. We're just not listing Hot Streak here. But you can see this play seems pretty good. So this Dolka guy, Underdog Fantasy has his line at 2. ParlayPlay is not even posting it, right? PrizePicks has his line at 1.5. None of these players are from the same game, so there's no correlation. But also this sportsbook, Hot Streak, they have his over all the way at minus 200-ish, minus 218. So again, PrizePicks is a platform where they don't change your payout based on you selecting over versus under. So this is exactly what you want to see. Like, even though Hot Streak has his line the same as PrizePicks, 1.5, Hot Streak has odds, and they're telling you, the under is really, or the over, I apologize, is really, really heavily favored, right? So that means you want to take the over on PrizePicks, which is exactly what this site is recommending. That shows like Hot Streak and stuff like that. So, okay, let's go with this. So this seems like a decent play. And the way it'll work is if this bet loses, PrizePicks will give me, I think it's up to $20 back. Maybe it's 25. I don't really remember. But here's what I went with for my PrizePicks whatever it's called, Flex Friday, whatever they call their promo. Risk-free bet. Quid over, still num under. None of these players from the same game, so no correlation to worry about. And again, correlation can work in your favor. It can work against you. Yeah. So we can go over to Jock Market. So this is another platform similar to PrizePicks, but doesn't seem like a ton of plays available. I'll try to find something better maybe. Luis Castillo over 1.5 earned runs. Gleyber Torres over 1.5 bases. Yeah, I'll wait to place a play here, but let's go back to parlay play. No house advantage. I have no idea what's happening with this sports book. I think they may be going out of business because they just took my money. It seems like I had like a few $100 in them and it's not there anymore. It says it's 0, so I'm not sure if anyone else. Well, I know other people are having issues with Typhoon is from DG Fantasy Optimizer. Yeah, correlation only matters if it's from the same match. Let those lines move. Yeah, I apologize, but hopefully people were able to tail this. 5-pick entry. And again, like you want to go with 5-pick entries on prize picks. And, if you don't understand why you don't want to play 2 picks, this article is pretty good in terms of kind of like breaking down the strategy. But anyways, let me share my screen. So on prize picks, you only want to place 5 or 6-pick flex plays, ideally. So this is what I went with. You don't want to place 2-pick entries. And that article will explain to you why. But anyways, let's go back here. And what we can do is we can pull up ParlayPlay since it seemed like there were some plays. And again, this is another platform, just like it works very similar to prize picks. There are pros and cons about it. So the con about prize picks or ParlayPlay is what you're going to notice is they only have a maximum bet size. It's pretty low. Like for these 6-pick entries, like you can try to put in 100. They're only going to let you bet 60. So even as you build your bankroll, you're only going to be able to bet $60. But what's good about it is if I go back here to prize picks, is what's nice about ParlayPlay is they have better payouts than prize picks for nearly everything. So these 6-pick entries, right? You go 6 for 6 on ParlayPlay, you get 25x. That's the same as prize picks. But if you go 5 for 6, you only get 2x on prize picks. You get 2.5x on ParlayPlay. So it's kind of like an uglier platform. But, they obviously have better payouts, so it's easier to make money. And, I've been using it for about 4 months now since the start of this year. And they also have a lot of profitable lines. So what I mean by that is like, I'm currently up 2.2K in profit, like 25% ROI, which isn't bad. Again, it's very streaky because you want to play 6-pick parlays. And, the way parlay betting goes is you're going to lose more often than you win, but the payouts are big. So you have like big spikes. So pretty good ROI on this platform because in my opinion, at least, it's easier to find good bets on ParlayPlay versus prize picks. It seems like they screw up their lines more. So what we can do is we can look for some plays here. So this play seems solid, right? Insanity over 4 or over 3.5. Underdog prize picks have his line at 4. And I would say like, in general, which sports books are sharper? I think someone asked that question. Like prize picks and Underdog Fantasy are bigger companies. They have access to more resources. Their models are probably better. They have more employees, better traders. And it's just a bigger company. It also means they have more access to betting volume, right? So prize picks is probably one of the most popular. It may be the most popular sports book in the US. So their lines in general, they're a little harder to beat, I'd say compared to ParlayPlay because they have a lot of betting volume, right? So like their lines are pretty efficient, right? Just like it's hard to beat the stock market, people who are day traders, probably not working out for you long term because it's hard to do because you're competing against like a lot of smart people trade stocks, right? Hedge funds, prop trading firms, mutual funds. There's people constantly looking at the price of Facebook trying to decide if they should buy or sell it. So it's really hard to beat the stock market because it's really efficient. So I'd say in general, like prize picks has more betting volume. So it's at least more efficient than ParlayPlay. And at least I would say prize picks is a little harder to beat than ParlayPlay. So we have our first play, and then we can go to our second play, Unforgiven under 3. And it looks like they bumped this line up to 3.5. So no, I want this. So I want the under 3.5. So perfect. We now have 2 picks. On ParlayPlay, you want to go with 5 or 6-pick entries. So what we can do is we can just kind of look for some plays. So Graham Ashcraft over 5 hits allowed. So it looks like only Pinnacle has a lineup for that. So that's a little confusing. So we can go to player hits allowed and just try to see like, okay, what's going on with this guy. So where's parlay play? So let me move this to the front. A little confusing. So there we go. It's like, okay, all the sports books have his line at 5.5 hits allowed. Granted, they have the under kind of favored. parlay play has the line at 5. Prize Picks is higher at 5.5. So that's a line discrepancy. Maybe a play we want to add in, but we can keep on taking a look, just see what's out there. Then I just kind of like switch back and forth. These plays are still available. Some sports books move lines pretty fast. Fliff doesn't. Seems like this play's just been sitting there. It's clearly good. So that may be a good play to go with. These plays I've already bet on. Some of these I've already bet on parlay play, so I'm not going to be able to rebet them. So what we can do, so like this is, if you're Charlie Brown Jr., his line is 14.5 on parlay play. It's 15.5 on Prize Picks. I'd assume Prize Picks is probably more right than wrong. So maybe you want to take Charlie Brown Jr. over 14.5. But again, there's very few sports books that post NBA Summer League lines. So I just try to tread, maybe a little more carefully. So Gory, first map kills. Underdog Prize Picks have his line at 4.5. Parlay Play has his line at 4. So again, when you turn on this line differences tab, it's just showing you where the lines are different, on other sports books. So now we have Golden Guardians versus NRG. So none of these players are playing in the same match. So it doesn't really matter. So we can skip that over. Then we have Scorch under 6. Prize Picks Underdog have the line at 5.5. So it's like, okay. We can take him under 6. None of these players on the same team. And again, like some people will ask, like, oh, shouldn't I place only 1 bet a day, 2 bets a day? And the answer is no, right? Like you want to place as many bets as possible within reason. I mean, I guess, but the reason is like if you have an edge, why would you place only 1 bet per day? Which is why the people who say they only place 1 bet per day, like it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, if you could do all the research you wanted for a full day, you're still not going to find a play that's like 50% profitable. You're not going to find a sports book sleeping that much at the wheel. So it doesn't like it. I'm trying to think of an example. Like if you had a coin that was 53% to show up on heads, 47% tails, and you were flipping it with a friend for $100, like that coin is weighted to show up on heads more often. But you're not going to like put your whole $1 million on that coin showing up heads because 47% of the time it's still going to show up tails. But if you flip that coin 1 million times, because the coin is weighted towards heads, over the course of the long run, it's literally mathematically guaranteed to show up on heads more. So like if you have an edge, you'll always win long term, but it will never make sense to place 1 bet a day for that reason. So we can go back here and try to find one last pick to go with. So we have Insanity over 3.5. We already have a lot of these plays. Scorch under 6. So we need one more pick because on this parlay play platform, kind of like Prize Picks, you want to go with 5 or 6 pick entries. So we can go back here and we can turn this off. So this just shows you, these aren't line discrepancies. This is just like, the way that parlay play works. This play, I don't think I'd bet. Urias over 4.5. So this can be my final pick. So we can take him over 5.5. So for these 5 pick entries, you'll notice you can try to put in $500, whatever. They're just going to reduce your bet size to $100. Another cool thing about this platform is on parlay play, they run this promo every single day where you can essentially like move a player's line down or up, right? And it's a promo you can run every day. So for example, what did we want to take on this Scorch guy? Let me go back here and we can go to Scorth. So we wanted to take him under 6 kills, right? So essentially every single day they let you do this, kind of like that Hot Streak sportsbook runs, odds boosts every single hour. This parlay play platform, they essentially let you slide a line once per day, I think for $25. So we wanted to take the Scorth guy under 6. We thought this bet was good because you can see here, from the fantasy optimizer. Prize Picks Underdog have his line at 5.5. ParlayPlay has his line at 6. So it's like, okay, getting the under 6 is good. But what we can do is make it even better and slide it up to under 6.5. They also have, an $100 deposit match. When you first sign up, obviously this isn't for me. You can't do this every single day, but I included my refer a friend code below. It's just ALEXM. And if you don't use this platform, definitely recommend it. You definitely make money on it. So a lot of pros about it. So 5-pick insured entry will slide the line on score to under 6.5, right? That seems pretty good. And then they'll tell me, hey, the max you can do is just $20. So it's like, okay, we can hit this for $20. Unforgiven. So they moved the line on Unforgiven. Okay, talking too much. So let's go back here and let's refresh it and see if there's any new plays. Because now we need one more, because now we're back down to 4. So again, like these lines can move quick. Like sportsbooks are in general on top of their lines. I think we were trying to bet Unforgiven under 3.5. They moved the line, or maybe the game started. I'm not sure. But if we go back here, we can take a look. So what's going on with Dean Kremer? So if we go here and we go to strikeouts, sometimes I just like, it looks like sportsbooks have his line at 4.5. ParlayPlay has his line at 5.5. That's obviously a big discrepancy. And again, like the market's smart. That's like the whole premise of positive EV betting is you're not trying to just like outsmart sportsbooks. So this play looks great, right? Underdog Fantasy has his line at 5. Prize Picks, another competitor to ParlayPlay. These platforms all work in very similar ways. They have the line at 5. So all these other books have his line lower. Sportsbooks have the line at 4.5, but they have the over favored. But again, seems like a really good bet. So we'll go ahead and we'll take it. Under 5.5 Ks. Perfect. And then we want to slide the line on score. Perfect. And we can place this for $20. So it looks like I've already bet this play on Dean Kremer. Probably makes sense. So I'm not going to be able to rebet this, but if you want to include it, I'll find one more pick. And if you want to make a 6-pick entry, that play seems pretty good. Okay, so let's go back here and let's see if there's anything else I haven't gone with. So I still feel like, did they put this back up? Unforgiven, under 3.5. Let's see. Nope, they bumped him down to 3. So again, we were trying to bet him under 3.5. ParlayPlay's like, dang, that guy's smart. And they moved his line down to 3 to be in line with the other sports book. So unfortunately, the value on that play is now gone, right? Another thing we could do is we could look for, we could go here, we can move Scorch back down to 6. And we can just find another play we want to slide. So we have Gory over 4. Did I already include this? I already included that. So what we can do is, again, on ParlayPlay for Esports, players on opposing teams are correlated. One guy to go over, one guy to go under. So on ParlayPlay, you can't bet on players from the same team, but you can include players from opposing teams. So if I go to Nassar Esports, who are they playing? They're playing Dark Paw. So what we could do is we could take a player from Dark Paw. Where is it? We could take a player from the opposing team. So let's just try to find something. Versus Golden G. So we could versus Golden G. Okay. So Golden Guardians, a little confused with how they're NRG versus Golden G. So what we can do is try to find a player's line to slide that has positive correlation. Although I'm having a tough time finding a player with his line. Like to slide the line, I think the line has to be at 6. So I can't do it on, Urias. I need to find a player with a higher line, like a line set at, 6, map 1, map 2 kills, something like that. So what we could also do is just find, but basically, so this play on Bulldog, this is actually, decent. So on Underdog Fantasy, I went through this previously, but I took him over 6. Underdog Fantasy was sleeping at the wheel. They had his line at 6. ParlayPlay has his line at 7, So Prize Picks is at 7. So you can see they just bumped down. Prize Picks just bumped down that line on Graham Ashcraft under 16. So that's like, typically you feel pretty good when they move the line in your favor. So what we can do is for Bulldog, Prize Picks has his line at 6.5. Underdog Fantasy has it at 6, right? And ParlayPlay, we can slide Bulldog's line up to 7.5. So then we have a 1.5 kill middle, right? Which seems pretty decent. So you're kind of like hedging a bit. And we can hit this. 6 for Scorth is not valid. Dang. So you do have to. So trying to move quick, but they're moving lines pretty fast today. Usually they're not that fast. I mean, sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. But you can see these plays on Fliff are still available. But it seems like ParlayPlay is moving a bit quicker today. So what we can do is we can just like try to find something. Unforgiven, Insanity. Which of these players? So we can take Ashcraft over 5 hits allowed. Why not? Nope. Well, let's go here. And that will be our final pick. So just trying to move a bit quicker. And then it's going to be $20 max bet size because I'm sliding the line. And I'll go with this. Right, so taking advantage of this daily promo on ParlayPlay. Because why not? And again, it's only $20 max bet size. But, if you add up, Prize Picks is giving you a $20 risk-free bet or $25, whatever it is. ParlayPlay has this slide the line promo, which is clearly good, clearly makes it a lot easier to find good bets. That's $20 a day. Underdog Fantasy is giving you Patrick Mahomes at 0.5 passing yards, like, sleeper. And I'm sure FanDuel has tons of promos. DraftKings has tons of promos. Like, when I first started sports betting, all I did was the profitable promos to build my bankroll because, like, it's very low-hanging fruit. This bet is so obviously good. And, like, you take advantage of all these promos on all these sports books, pretty easy way to build your bankroll, make $1,000 bucks a month, maybe even a little more. The hard part is just remembering, where the promos are and which books are running promos. Because there are so many different sports books, Underdog, Prize Picks, and you kind of got to stay on top of it because, never know which books are going to be running promos on a given day. So what we can do is I can pull up like FanDuel, DraftKings, some of the main sports books. Obviously, I can't bet on them right now. I'm in California. But like you can see, there's some pretty good plays, it looks like, available on both of these sports books. Dela Cruz, over 1.5 hits, plus 185 on FanDuel. Other sports books have this around plus 150-ish. So that seems pretty good, right? So a lot of profitable bets on FanDuel. Got to get back to Virginia soon so I can start betting on FanDuel again. A lot of good MLB player props. Donaldson, over 1.5 hits, plus 200 on FanDuel. Other books more around like plus 170. So some good value out there on FanDuel, but whatever. You can see BetMGM is another good one. I may have them filtered out in my settings. So you can filter out sports books if you just don't want to see them or whatever. So I have a bunch of different sports books filtered out. But let me add back in. I'm not sure why I have Sleeper filtered out. I don't want that. So what we can do, stake, like, prize, whatever. Tons of different sports books. PointsBet has slightly different odds in every state. So I filtered out a bunch of them just because I don't want to see the same sports book like a million times just for slight odds differences. So any plays on BetMGM? Maybe not right now. I don't know. Usually there's some pretty good plays on BetMGM, Barstool, BetRivers. Like all these sports books are great books that, I've used before. So this seems decent though on Fliff, which is a sports book I can use under 8 runs. So what we can do is we can go back here and I can filter out these books again just because I'm not betting on them. DraftKings I can filter out. So this seems pretty solid. And a lot of times, like, these line movements kind of occur. Like, why do lines move? When do lines move? A lot of times you'll notice it's after, so if I look up Underdog MLB, so a lot of times lines move after starting lineups are released. So for example, the Reds just announced their starting lineup. right? Like who's officially playing, what order. So you'll see a lot of player props start to move after this, which makes sense because who are the Reds playing? So if we go here and I just type in Reds. So the Reds are playing the Brewers, right? So let's say the Reds announce, a starting lineup that's more prone to striking out. Well, that affects whoever's pitching for the Brewers, his strikeout line. It may be Corbin Burns. I'm not sure who's pitching, but like if they put in a bunch of players who strike out more often and they're power hitters, whatever, that's going to affect Corbin Burns' strikeout line. So long story short, like lines are always moving. It's just like the price of a stock. Like good economic news comes out, like that's reflected in the market. Stocks go up a bit because, there's new information that, the economy's doing well or whatever, right? Like we have a whole financial industry based on that. So we can go to the Cardinals game. And now there's going to be a new promo on Hot Streak. We just hit 11 a.m. So there should be a new promo on Hot Streak. So we can go to alternate score and we can just take the under 8 and add that in. So again, volume game. You want to place as many bets with an edge as possible. I just hit this for $250, right? There's a 3.8% profit margin. So 250 times 3.8%, right? 4% of 250, whatever, however you want to think about it, is kind of your profit margin. So this bet has roughly $10 in profit margin. So this percent column is also referred to as like your edge. So the way you can, I got to check out JockMKT then. Yeah, there's just so many games. Sportsbooks have a hard time keeping up. So basically like, okay, this bet has a 3.8% profit margin, 3.8%, right? I bet it for $250, right? So the profit margin in dollars is you just take your edge, right? So if you bet this for $100, your bet has a 3.8% edge, right? That means the bet has 380 in expected value or, profit margin, however you want to think about it. So just depending on how much you stake. So long story short, if you place let's say you place, 5,000 bets, at in your unit size is $100 and your average bet has a 3.8% profit margin. Obviously not every bet's going to win, but you put in 100 times 5,000, which means you bet $500,000 total. Obviously you're not betting $500,000 in a day. But again, in sports betting, like these games are today, right? So like, even if your bankroll is only $2,000, if you're betting $1,000 a day over the course of a month, that's $30,000. So, long story short, after 5,000 bets with an $100 unit size at a 3.8% edge, you should be up roughly 19K. Pretty simple. And what's great about sports betting and makes it really powerful is your returns are daily, right? Like, if you can find a play with like people invest in the stock market to get 8% a year. If you could even get a 1% ROI in your bets, right? Sports are every day. So 1% daily ROI means 30% ROI over the course of a month. 1% a day, 30% a month, pretty good, right? Even if you can find bets that are just 1% profitable. So we can go back to Hot Streak and we can see what is their new hourly promo. So we can go back to the fantasy optimizer. Whoa. So it looks like right now they're boosting Lindor, right? Plus 144. All the other books have this priced around plus 100. So it's like, okay, that seems pretty dang good. So we can go here. We can take his over, and you can see they're literally telling you this play is profitable. They're just hard to find. So OddsJam obviously, makes that pretty easy. And then we can pair it with Sanchez under half of a hit, whatever. I'm just going to grab a random play. I don't know which of these are odds boosts, which aren't. And good to go. Plus 148 odds. Boom. And then I want to remove that esports play, which we were just looking at as an example. And boom, we got our play in, right? Pretty good stuff. So Hot Streak, every hour you get a new odds boost. Usually they're like 10% EV. So just something you can take advantage of every single hour. It's obviously nice. And an easy way to build your bankroll, whatever. So, whoa, what the F? Yo, this is insane. It looks like esports lines just dropped for the upcoming day. And again, like I was talking about it earlier, this is typically when you'll oh my God. This is typically when you'll find the best discrepancies is when esports lines first drop. Holy moly. So let's try to go quickly. So here we have a middle 7.5 to 9.5, Eddie, right? Then we have Brion 5 to 7. Okay, so none of these players are on the same team, nothing to worry about. So another 2-kill middle. So again, biggest discrepancies are when books first release lines. And then we have 7 and 9. So typically what I do, so you can see it seems like Prize Picks is way lower than Underdog in general on these. So what I typically do and what I'd recommend doing, if is, so I'm going to lock this in, is I try, because these lines will move quickly. I mean, these are huge freaking discrepancies. Underdog was initially 9.5 on Eddie. Now I think they're down to, no, they're still 9.5. So regardless, like these plays, I'm going to lock this in. Lines are going to move quickly. So I'm going to hit this 3-pick entry. And again, I'm not taking an opinion on like these guys going under, these guys going over. Like that's not what I'm doing. I'm just taking advantage of these massive discrepancies in the market, right? 9-7-7. So then I want to take these 3 overs. But what I'm going to do is, again, these players are on the same team. So on Prize Picks, they're positively correlated to go over together. So I'll start building a slip, right? So I want to take his over, and then I'll start building a new slip on Underdog Fantasy because you can't play players from the same team on Underdog Fantasy. So I want to take Karras over 3.5. God, there are line discrepancies everywhere. So then we can take Artifact over 5. So how does this look? TS, Bro versus HLE. So here, these players are on the same team, Henna and Karras, right? So they're positively correlated to go over together. And then we have TS versus GAM. So no negative correlation here. But what we could do is we can try to find another, well, Eddie, Artifact. Are these guys on the same team? So these guys are on the same team. So we actually have the added benefit of positive correlation here, right? So perfect. So now what I want to do is start building my second slip, right? Right. So we have positive correlation between Eddie and Artifact. They're on the same team. Prize Picks lets you pair correlated players. So playing 2 players from the same game to both go over is positively correlated. Also, Henna and Karras are positively correlated. So on Underdog Fantasy, I'm going to play 3-pick entries because, 3-pick entries are pretty good. There are just a ton of esports line discrepancies right now. So on under 11.5, so you can see that line's already gone. So they will move these quick. So what I want to do is let's just kind of refresh it here. Well, we can also go over to Underdog. Oh my God. Slows. Damn, did they move them? So again, the heart, nope, they just put it back up. So you can see this guy slows. His line is 6.5. On Prize Picks, it's 9.5 on Underdog. So no players from the same game here on Underdog. So I'm just going to lock in this 250. And then I'll start using this over on Prize Picks. They'd already bet this Dream player. So Underdog Fantasy only lets you bet 250 per player per day. So they'd already bet Dream. So Dream I didn't already bet. So what I want to do is start building a new entry with this player slows. And ideally, we can find some positive correlation on the Prize Pick side. So Underdog Fantasy, I want to take the over up at IG. So we can take the overs here. We already locked in the play on slows, so it's like, okay. Did I already bet crying? And again, you will notice, I promise you, if you look tomorrow, all these plays are going to be gone, right? Like, so I don't, woo, well, this actually works out really nicely because we're getting positive correlation, right? So we want to take Cryan under, but his over on Underdog. So you can play players on opposing teams on Underdog, and that's actually positively correlated, which works out great for us. So then I want to take on, yo, come on. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to bet that, but what I will be able to bet is this. So I'm going to take him under 11.5 on prize picks. So now we have two unders, players from the same team. That's positively correlated. And then we also have a player on the opposing team to go over. So all of this is positively correlated, which is great. So then I just need a final pick here. So you can see they moved it. So I'll remove that. And then I want to take this Cryan Dream. So now, you know, again, like you're in a race against the sports books kind of when they first drop odds because they always screw up. That's like a common thread. And again, you don't have to get it perfect. Like on Underdog Fantasy, 3 picks are optimal. So I'm trying to place, 3 picks. So what I can do is none of these players are from the same game. So if you lock in this 3-pick entry, right, and then you lock in this 3-pick entry. So this is actually a 6 flex, right? So I'm going to lock this in if anyone wants to tail. And what play do I want to remove? So who did they end up removing for me? Oh, they ended up removing Dream. So it's like, okay, I'll hit this for 250. And I promise you, if you check these lines in an hour, you're going to notice a lot, if not all, the opportunities go away. Like the biggest screw ups, Prize Picks' model spits out their initial lines. No one's bet them yet. Underdog Fantasy spits out their initial lines. No one's bet them yet. Like pretty crazy big discrepancies here. So again, like it's not perfect. On Underdog Fantasy, I'm placing 3 picks just to try to get them down faster. But you can see we got some pretty insane plays. Slows over 6.5. Imagine if LeBron's rebound line was 6.5 on Prize Picks, 9.5 on Underdog Fantasy. It's essentially what you're getting here. Pretty crazy. So yeah, this video will be saved. I mean, it's just a YouTube video. So it'll be on YouTube. Obviously, it won't be live anymore. Oh my gosh. So you can see they are just dropping lines like crazy. And all of them are wrong. So we can go here. We can take Valkyrie over 5.5. Perfect. We can go to Underdog. Take him under 8.5. Perfect. We already took this play on slows. Over 10.5 here. And this is perfect. Positive correlation, right? Players on opposing teams, you can correlate on Underdog Fantasy. 1 player from each team. So this is positively correlated. And then I wanted on over 9.5. And then here I wanted him under 11.5. Perfect. Positive correlation here. So I'm going to hit this. And it's going to move quick. All these lines are going to move quickly. But again, I don't want to miss it. So sorry. So there we go. We locked in the 3rd pick. Absolutely insane middles. So we're going to get to them before the rest of the world even wakes up to the fact. Literally a 3-point middle, right? Absolutely insane. An NBA player's rebound line, 5.5 versus 8.5. Like these are big discrepancies. So anyways, we do need to find a couple more plays that we can, add in. So might as well add in 4.5. And then this play, I'm going to add in 5.5. So this is a different game. Well, here, this correlation is perfect, right? Because he's on FL, just like SSO, Hacha Matcha, is on the same team. So you have positive correlation taking both unders. So that works out. And then you want to take, come on. Of course, this guy's name has to be Angel. So then we want to take his under here and his over here, right? So you want to go with this. NIP versus LNG. So none of these players are from the same game. So perfect. So I'll hit this for 250. And another huge middle. And again, we have huge positive correlation here, right? These players, FL, Hacha Mecha, and SS Seoul are on the same team, so they're positively correlated to go under. And Valkyrie is positively correlated to both of them going under as well. So we have the added benefit of that there. And we do need one final play on Underdog Fantasy. So what do we want to go with? Man. Dean Kremer under 17.5 outs. Whatever, might as well add in a baseball play, right? And then we'll hit that for 250, right? Just to kind of complete out our middle. Tons of line discrepancies. Perfect. So that worked out. And then we can go ahead and we can refresh this. Maybe there's some plays on Fliff. Nope. But there are some crazy esports line discrepancies, middle bets. Again, it's not about the esports, you're day trading sports. Essentially what you're doing. ParlayPlay hasn't dropped yet either. So who's screwing up here? Is it Prize Picks screwing up all their lines, or is it Underdog? In general, it seems to be Underdog moves closer towards Prize Picks. But again, there is no reason not to hit these 3-point middles that you can find, this is Daily Grind Fantasy, which kind of shows you the same thing. Just works a little differently than Odds Jam. But anyways, hopefully this video was helpful. I'll call it a day for now. And we placed a lot of bets. We placed a lot of middles. Hopefully it was helpful. My email's alex@oddsjam if you have any questions, anything like that. And thanks so much for everyone's time.